Good morning, everyone. Okay, on my morning walk, just thankful for the day, thankful for just the opportunity to wake up today and have breath in my lungs. And so before I do my workout, I was just going to walk, and I just had some devotion time, some personal time. Got to get that in for, man, if Jesus is the bread of life, then I got to get the word every day because that's the bread, right? So you guys, oh my goodness, thinking through some devotional time today. You guys remember in Numbers chapter 20 when Moses had already had a very long journey with the Israelites, and he's getting ready to bring them through to the promised land. So he's getting ready to bring the Israelites finally to their destination that they've been wandering in the wilderness for, and they're headed this way. They're so close. And the Israelites, as they did, they were complaining, and they get to Kadesh, I believe, and they are expecting water. And when I researched, the town of Kadesh was a place where they could get water. So you can imagine they must have been looking forward. They were just, if we can just get to Kadesh, if we can just get there, then we can quench our thirst. And they get there and it's dry. There's no water. Well, think through all of the things and all the ways Yahweh, God, which I did some more research on the name Yahweh, and Yahweh is a personal name for God. It's like a relational name for God. So beautiful. It just made, so when you guys, in the word, in the Bible, when you see all capital Lord, L, capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, that means Yahweh. That's an English translation from the Hebrew. But the Hebrew word Yahweh was such a reverent word that even the Jewish culture, they would not even speak Yahweh. They wouldn't even utter the words Yahweh because it was so reverent. And they held God in such esteem and reverence. That's true fear. That's what fear means, by the way. When you read not to fear, to fear God, it's not the kind of fear that we think of like scared or, it's a reverence. It's a posturing of our hearts, really. But yeah, it was, so back to Moses. Moses is getting ready, and the Israelites are complaining. They're like, you should have just left us in Egypt. And they found themselves yearning for their slavery back. I think of how many times do we do that? Do we yearn to look back to the way things were because it was just more comfortable? Even if it was like we were enslaved in our sin, I could talk for a long time on that, but I don't want a bunny trail. So I'm getting to it. So God says, he's talking to Moses and Aaron. He says, go and speak to the rock, and the rock will flow with water. I'm ad-libbing, but he does say, speak to the rock. And Moses and Aaron, they go to the Israelites, and Moses is angry. Now, we as humans can understand his anger. This man, you're talking million plus Israelites that he's leading through the wilderness, and they've just done nothing but complain. They have seen God's promises. They have seen the Red Sea split. They have walked through it. They have manna from heaven, the bread from heaven. They have been provided for. You're talking their sandals that they had on their feet. Their sandals weren't even worn, you guys, from walking. I mean, how many times do we get a new pair of tennis shoes because we put 30 miles on them? I mean, I get more out of mine, but I'm just saying, it's like God provided for them. He was their God. He was with them. He was a pillar of fire by night and a cloud by day. That was the presence of God. I like, let that sink in. That just is mind blowing. And then to still doubt him and to still, just in our human flesh, just to still desire to go back to our bondage. But anyway, the Israelites were like, well, at least we had meat and all this stuff. Well, moving forward, that was the moment that Moses, he went and he struck the rock. He didn't only just strike the rock once, he struck the rock twice because he was angry. And when he did that, he kind of sealed his fate. The consequence was then that Moses was not able to bring the Israelites to the promised land, and that Moses would never see the promised land on this side of heaven. So the thing with that is that in our sin, that was disobedience on Moses' part because he didn't trust God. And it really reminded me of in the book of Jonah, when Jonah was mad at God he didn't want to save the Ninevites because they were a destructive and evil people. And he knows how gracious God is. Jonah knew, as a prophet, he knew how good God was, how forgiving, how gracious, how kind. And he knew that if the Ninevites repented of their sins and their ways, that God would have forgiven them. But that's the God we serve. That's how gracious and kind and loving and that he pours out on us. And Moses knew the same. Moses was a friend of God. Moses saw and believed and mostly was obedient to God. And he had a reverent fear. He feared God. He would bow low before God to even hear instructions or just when God was displaying his glory. So in all of that, God told Moses, and Moses at this time, you guys, if you remember the story, Moses was still full of vigor. He was like a youth, and he was like over 100 years old, and he still had his youthfulness. He was like very strong and very able-bodied. There was nothing old about him, and his punishment was that he would die before the Israelites would go into the land of Canaan or the promised land. And that's when Joshua takes over and things like that. But anyway, so powerful today. I've been chewing on that. I've been chewing on Yahweh and his name and what that means, and just spending time adoring him today. So you guys, I hope that you are encouraged. Thank you for walking with me today. It's a beautiful morning out. It's about 60 degrees and I'm about to shed this jacket. But I hope you all have a wonderful day. I pray for each and every one of you. I thank you for taking time with me today. And stay tuned for James chapter 3. That's coming out on next Tuesday. So, all right, you guys, I will see you soon. Bye.